This is Steve Miller. It is 6:02 on Tuesday, April the 3rd, and this is the Technology Committee meeting. Start off with everyone introducing themselves for the record.
Beverly Albright.
Julia Olson.
Rob Hurley.
Kathleen
Scott Matz.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for attending. Mr. Strobel will not be able to make it tonight, so I think everyone's here. I don't know if everyone's seen the agenda. Did you get the agenda published or? Okay. All right, great. So the items on the agenda, I really want to get a better understanding of where we are, what's in the proposed budget, and begin laying some groundwork for moving forward. With that, the items on the agenda for tonight are financial system upgrade, the data warehouse solution, a technology asset overview, project plans, and the one-on-one program implementation status and planning. So I'm not sure we can go really in any order, so I'm not sure where we would like to start.
I told Rob and Kathy they're more than welcome to have the front parts. I
Okay.
can forward with my end of the discussion then.
Okay, very good then. So, Rob, sure.
Do they need them over there as well?
Thank you. Thank you.
and these for them. They're just going to listen.
All right, Rob, yeah, the floor is yours.
Okay, let me give you some context first, and this will help you understand the purchase or the proposed purchase. First, for the price of less than a school bus, I want to talk to you about what this software will do for us. The company's called On Hand Schools, and what it will do is, it is basically a data warehouse plus some other things that we need as a school district to continue to make progress and to move forward as a school district. Let me give you some context. Right now at Daniel Boone, all of our schools' data exists in silos. Our data does not talk well with each other, for lack of a better word. We have different systems for different things. For example, F&P data is kept on one spreadsheet. We have Dibble's data is kept on another set of spreadsheets. We have graduation data is on another set of spreadsheets. We have post-graduation plans on another set of spreadsheets. AP data is on another set of spreadsheets. SAT data is in binders until about 3 weeks ago. Our courses that the students are taking are in eSchool. Our demographic data about our students is in eSchool. And what this software will do, if you look at the first page, one of the things it's going to do is it's going to create dashboards and allow all of our data to integrate. Right now, it is a Herculean task to make our systems talk with each other, and so that when we analyze data, we have to pull things from multiple different sources to make decisions as administrators and ultimately down to teachers itself. And so what this system generally does, and the real benefit of the system, it allows us to take all those different pieces of data and put them together. It'll track, let me give you an example, it'll track for the students different interventions. Interventions are things that we do when a student isn't meeting the academic standards, or the student is exceeding and their curriculum needs to be enriched. It'll track those things so that we're not duplicating those things grade level to grade level that are unsuccessful, and we're trying things that are successful. Ultimately, it allows us to make predictions in terms of at-risk students. Those are all some of the things that this will do. Right now, we are behind on this. Other districts have similar types of products that are out there. we need this desperately as a school district to pinpoint things and do things systematically from top to bottom. Again, it will take all of our data from PBOS to PSSA to DIBELS to IEP to AIMSweb. It'll put them all into one system, and it'll be on a dashboard that a teacher, a principal, a teacher will easily be able to analyze where the students are, how their building's doing as we go through the entire school year. So fundamentally, it's something we need to do. We've been kind of doing this for years through patchwork and Band-Aids because it does cost money to do this as a school district. We've been doing the best we can with what we have, to be honest with you. It does integrate with our student information and ultimately the long-term plans of our student information system, which is a lot of our demographic data. But it also takes all these other pieces of data, puts it together in a user-friendly format. One of the things about this software here, and we certainly don't have to be the smartest people in the room, there's over 100 school districts in Pennsylvania that use this particular software developed by On Hand Schools. It's very highly regarded. The company originated in Pennsylvania, so they're very sensitive to Pennsylvania needs, as I'll kind of talk you through some of the requirements that it also does above and beyond just the data warehouse, which really intrigues me because it also fulfills some other needs that we have. If you turn to page 2 here, it also has a curriculum manager. Right now, our curriculum, we use Word documents, okay, and we store them. Ultimately, okay, and by the way, and that's the stuff we've developed recently, again, there's curriculum that is very old and needs to be updated in our school district. It's a project, okay? It was put on the back burner for many years in our school district, and there's things that need to be updated. There's other curriculums that have been updated recently. But what it also does is it creates a standard format that all of our curriculum can be imported into and used. It will take time to get it all up there. Ultimately, it'll give parents access to our curriculum when it's all completed. Again, that will take time. The curriculum manager software allows us to do some things at a very granular level also. For example, let's say students on our PSSAs are doing poorly on Anchor 2A.1. Eventually, when our curriculum all gets up on here, we will be able to analyze when is this taught, what grade levels is it taught, what time of year is it taught. So it lets us get down to the real small level detail, and you can start to look for some trends there. But again, one of the powers of the curriculum software itself is it puts all of our curriculum in one place, in one format, and eventually, and it will take time, it will allow us to everyone to update it who we give permission to. So it could be, we could have 4 teachers working at once on a curriculum. And so that's a second piece, which is a software tool we need to have. And there are certainly isolated software packages out there that do this. This comes incorporated into the software developed by On Hand Schools. So we're getting the data warehouse. We're also getting the curriculum manager, which will be useful. And by the way, the curriculum manager also has some other parts, which I'll talk to in greater detail in a minute. Okay. Another piece that we get, if you turn the page, at our elementary schools and middle school, we do RTII for our students, and it's basically a response to interventions. And it's a program in which we do that all on spreadsheets right now, and basically what we're looking at is we're tiering our students. Tier 1 gets a certain amount of instruction, Tier 2 gets certain interventions, Tier 3 gets very intensive interventions. This software will help us manage that more efficiently. That's a bonus. That's not why we originally sought out software of this nature, but it's a bonus part that was developed into the software itself, obviously to make it more attractive to schools when they were trying to sell it. So it helps us, and it'll help our teachers in the long run. Ultimately, we put in our criteria that we use for level Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 for our students, and it'll automatically identify those students. Takes the hassle away from the teachers using spreadsheets, doing quick sorts, and the teachers have become adept at that, but again, it's all there. The other thing it'll do is it'll allow us to track students over time in our RTII program. Right now, it depends on the technical skills of the administrator and the teachers to be able to do that. As you know, if you work in Microsoft Microsoft Excel. It doesn't assign primary keys to student names. So you have to be very careful about students moving in and out. Every 10 students named, pick a name, Brad Smith, in the school district, and it can create a mess if you're not very careful with that. By connecting to our student information system and using our state identification code, which each student has, it creates some of the things by doing it with Band-Aids. It'll eliminate some of the problems, therefore, in terms of RTII that we have. The last piece is important too. It will also allow us, the software contains benchmark assessments for us. Currently, we use Study Island for that. This again, for the price less than a school bus, this software will allow us to have benchmark assessments. Here's the great thing about it. Right now, they have benchmark assessments that are correlated highly with our state standards, about an 85% correlation, which is reasonable. But in the longer term, and we, of course, have to do our own correlations if we do something. Benchmark assessments aren't going away because principals need to have a feel for where their students are at and where the gaps are at. But what it will allow us to do is to customize those assessments. And if we have the time and the professional development, our teachers will be able to create their own benchmark assessments that everyone at a particular grade level will use. So it'll allow us to customize them eventually down the road. Originally, we will start with their benchmark assessments. Another thing that's a positive, there's this company, because they originated in Pennsylvania and they're based in Pennsylvania and they have the majority of their clients are in Pennsylvania, they've been hypersensitive to new changes in the law. They just changed the way the schools are going to be measured. And in for example, in grades 3 and 7, we are now allowed to have a internal benchmark. And this company's already produced the necessary documentation that we can provide, the research behind it to provide the state. Some of the bigger companies that are based in Texas, for example, haven't even done that yet because we're not their major client. And they're just not dragging their feet, they're trying to get to it, but they haven't even got it done. This company is Pennsylvania focused. So it's another thing it adds to us. If you go to document B, basically, and that looks like this, guys, this gives it even greater detail, and it shows you all the different elements, okay, of this. And again, the major reason we're looking at this is for the data warehouse component, the curriculum component. The other pieces, like the benchmark assessments, is bonus, to us, and bonus things they offer us. There's things like SLOs that we can use the technology. We're pushing paper around for that right now, for example. There's all kinds of little features to this that we can use. It integrates with our IEP system, all kinds of different things, again, in a user-friendly format. So you can look at the different things in the different parts of the program itself that it does for us.
Okay.
Document C, if you take a look at costs,
Yep.
The cost of the program itself, it's less than the school bus, okay? And I want to put this in perspective because I think when we make decisions, it's real important to put them in perspective. We have 3,000 students that will benefit from this, approximately 200, 300 staff that will benefit from this. All the administrative team will benefit from this. When you look at the cost versus the benefit and the potential power, and it will take time to realize the full potential of this software, because as you can see, it's complex and there are multiple things to it, and we'll have to do a gradual implementation process. But the cost is right there. But here's the great part, in my view, and it's one of the things that's very attractive to me about this, because we have to be very careful about how we spend our funds as a school district. And I'll pass this around to you in a second here. And this is just for you to see. This is what Study Island costs. I can get rid of Study Island because that's a component of this.
Okay.
This is what Study Island cost me.
Yeah, that's why I was wondering if we had any financial benefits.
Yeah. And
It's
so
like a wash.
it's a wash, virtually a wash, guys. And I get all this. And so there is a little bit of a curriculum piece to study on, but we can overcome that with a couple $1,000s here or there to get some materials for teachers. I'm not overly worried about it. So basically, you see why I'm attracted to this particular software. It does more than what I need. It gives us additional features. It's used heavily in Pennsylvania throughout the state. Over 100 school districts use it. We have 501 school districts in the state, so 20% of the school districts use it. So the cost is virtually a wash. I can dump Study Island. I may have to spend $2,000 or $3,000 on some additional materials for teachers because there are some people who do use some of the back end stuff there, but that's not, when you look at this versus that, it looks pretty attractive to me in terms of what it can do. We've been putting this off for financial reasons. We've been looking at different things for about 2 to 3 years on this. This is something we need as a school district. Right now, we're doing it with one hand tied behind our backs. I'm being really honest. I want to try to get the right tools in the right people's hands, both at a district level, at a building level, at a building principal level, and ultimately at a teacher level, because it needs to be user-friendly enough. Teachers they're doing lesson plans, and if it's not user-friendly for them, and the way we work with data right now with spreadsheets and things like that, a lot of it depends on the teacher's ability to manipulate that data. This puts it in their hands in one spot. Teachers use the interventions. They track them by hand, and we pass them on grade level by grade level. I think we can do better than that at this point in time. And the cool thing here is I think we can do it in a way that's physically responsible for the school district. So that's why this is here.
Okay.
That's what I'm proposing to the school district, and I think it's in a financially responsible way. I just so you do know, I did reach out to building principals and teachers. Obviously I don't speak to every teacher in regards to Study Island. Like I was up talking to high school teachers, the biology teachers use it for some benchmarks, and there's workarounds, and we can work around if they use the curriculum piece there. It's not used real heavily as a curriculum piece at Amity, and the middle school, again, we can work around that. I've been working with Jenny, and I got a good feel for how they use it there. And there's Compass Odyssey that we currently have that the middle school has a license for, that will provide curriculum materials there that are more than adequate and standards-based. So again, that's a real tiny cost and when I say curriculum materials, it's basically there's some lessons and stuff that people tend to pick out once in a while because there's some decent things in Study Island. So that's kind of what I'm looking at, and that is in our budget, and very powerful. I'm real excited about it. Just for full transparency, I haven't pulled it in. I have in my budget, I have money set aside for principal developments on this.
Okay.
I do plan on spending some professional development money because I think it's important that the educational leaders of the building be familiar with best practice of how to use this. So I do plan on training them well in terms of the use of it. Otherwise, it just sits in the background and it doesn't get used well. And so there's a little bit of a cost there in terms of that, and I have some different proposals from them on that.
How much do you have budgeted there?
I can spend about $5,000 there for their development or certain teacher leaders' development, depending on how I do it. But I want to be transparent. That comes out of like a pure, curriculum professional development type of budget there. But this is their cost for the program. They do offer one free day, as you can see here, of professional development, and then their cost per day. I can buy a package, though. I can tell you right now, I can get a package of professional development from them for about $5,000 that would more than meet our needs in terms of development. They can work, and they can work with Skyward, which Scott's looking at we're all looking at for student information system, and they can currently work with SunGuard, eSchool, which is our current student information system. They're used to doing this type of thing. They've been very good as a company in terms of being responsive to me, which is important because if we have problems implementing, they got to be there for us to do it. So.
Okay, so eSchool is our current student information system, is it?
Yes, that's correct.
I can actually speak firsthand about the things not always matching up. In our district, we do performance tracker, my learning plan, Ames Web, Dibbles, and it is actually like putting pieces of paper together to figure out what. So this does look like it would be a lot easier than what we do.
Thank you. And we did look at performance tracker as one of the.
That's just one of our pieces,
yeah,
but it doesn't.
It didn't meet my needs. I was like, this isn't going to solve
Well,
my
yeah,
problem.
we've got a couple, it sounds very similar. We have a couple programs that do a couple things, but none of them do all of it, so.
Which is why I like it. And
Right.
You teach, so from a practical standpoint, right, that makes sense.
Absolutely. Literally have papers taped together in the beginning of the year, trying to figure out where everybody goes. But, and I think, as far as you said with the eliminating Study Island, I mean, it's almost like you said, it's a wash. I don't see what the big,
Yep.
what's the word I'm looking for? Backlash would be, as far as that goes with any of the board.
Now, do you have some other questions? You said, as far as competitors, you looked at other competitors?
Yeah, I did, and I was brought to this by the large number of school districts in Pennsylvania, which is really attractive to me. I looked at one, I looked at Performance Tracker. I had one by, I believe it was Vantage Learning was the other company. That was a while ago, that was about a year ago, I started looking at that one there. Don't quote me on that, I can certainly give you those names. The thing that attracted to me when I started looking at this one was, because we also had a need for a curriculum manager software, and it did some things with Study Island. It just brought more feature. It was much more robust than what those other pieces did. So I really got focused in on this one real quickly. This was actually the third one I looked at.
Okay. And the $30,000 a year, that is a subscription for a 3-year
Yeah, and I
contract?
did ask them whether they can do it, can they do it, we pay a huge fee up front, and then that will be done, and now they won't, that's not the way they do it. That's
Okay.
not their model, so.
And your Study Island, that fee is per year as well.
That's per
but,
year,
yeah,
yeah, it's not cheap,
No.
trust me.
apparently.
And the setup and implementation fee, that's $3,000. It sounds like there's a lot of data to be integrated and brought in. That includes everything that you're planning for?
Yes, and one of the things that they do is, they'll create, where they doing it, they integrate with some systems automatically, like I think AimsWeb's one because it's so common, they integrate, that'll just, every day it uploads the data from AimsWeb. There are other things where they will create, for example, things that we will keep on a spreadsheet. They're customized to Daniel Boone and data points that we track.
Right.
What they'll do is we'll punch it directly in. They'll upload what we have so far, and then they'll create a form for us. There'll be some work here from them, obviously, and they'll create a form that instead of punching it into a spreadsheet, we punch it in there, and it integrates with all of our other data. That's a great question.
Okay, so that's how we have the stuff. It sounds like we have a lot of spreadsheets today, so that's
Oh, yeah.
that's how we're going to get the data into the system?
Yeah, through spreadsheets, and then and without going into specifics of what, I have some building principals and they do it well, but they look at data with binders, but it's really hard if you do any real data analysis if you're gonna really look for root cause analysis, you have to be able to slice and dice data in many different ways. And so when it's done in binders, it's really hard to do it that way. It doesn't give you the real functionality and power. It's better than nothing, by the way, and that person works really hard to make sure that it's done reasonably
Right,
well,
sure.
but they're doing the best they can with the tool they got.
Okay. I see there's a $800 hosting fee, so is this is a hosted service?
Yes. Mhm.
I guess, is that for a server, or I'm a little confused. What is the $800?
Yeah, and I can get more color on that if you'd like.
Okay, yeah, just curious, because, well, it kind of leads into my next question. You're going to access this, I assume the data, the system's off-site that we're accessing through the internet or through a
Yeah,
network connection?
yes.
It is, okay. And we're set up to be able to do that without any problems? Okay. And it's Windows-based or any browser-based, any of the interfaces?
That's my understanding,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. All right, sounds good. I mean, yeah, it seems like as far as financially, that it pays for itself and a lot of benefits to it. And any other, I think there are a lot of what considered soft savings in getting rid of work and other things internally, but any other hard dollars that are going, just the one system that we can do away with, or I thought I heard a couple.
I'm real excited about the
Okay.
potential in the long term. There's short-term benefit immediately from this that we really need to have, but the long-term potential, I look at somebody, so I say, oh, that's good. That's nice. There's just little pieces and little tools here that eventually, as we gain mastery of the system, that I think we can do. Ultimately, it's how well do we, it's not the data though, it's how well do we use the data to inform our programming as a district, and how well do we use the data to inform instruction, and then how reliable is the data itself. You want to get good data in there, that makes sense.
Okay. So then the $34,000 for the coming year, where's that in the budget specifically? Is it?
I've been working with Kathleen on this
It's in
particular.
the technology budget, it's under 650.
650 in technology. Yeah, I just want to make sure, it sounds like a great thing to move forward, to make sure that it's not something that we look at not spending, or not including, so it's in 650 in technology.
Yeah, I have it in technology, I think in the side function, that function you don't really,
Yep.
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 I have another function that I use for technology that's, Scott doesn't really.
Is that where Study Island typically had been included, or?
Study Island comes in actually Study Island, it came out, it's a little bit quirky, and it kind of came out of my budget, Study
Okay.
Island, and so there will be some reduction in there. Now, I'll leave a couple thousand just if I need some additional curricular materials out of that, but I can knock some of that off my budget, guys.
Okay. So is that still in your budget today?
It's still in my budget
Okay,
today.
good. So that'll be a reduction. And as far as contract, any notification or the timing for?
What I'm going to do, and pending for, if you guys give me the okay, because I've already started planning in terms of professional development, just if everyone is okay with this, what I would like to do is put a contract for the board to sign committing, even though they'll wait for the payment to July 1st of the fiscal year.
Okay.
But they're eager to get started with us because it makes it go smoother in the transition process.
Mm-hmm.
I'm eager to get started because, again, there's also things that we're doing right now that we're like, I'll give you an example. I'm supervising the writing of the science curriculum. We're doing one of the physics ones over, and we want to get that in those templates right now, so we're not being redundant in terms of what we're doing, and so it'll also make the transition process go a lot smoother with Scott and their tech people as we go
Okay.
through it. So if you guys are okay with it, I'd like to have them write up a formal commitment from us as a school district, and then I'll put that on the board agenda, and they'll do that, and that'll commit us to them once we hit July 1st for the physical year. We'll go forward.
Okay,
with that.
yeah.
Okay.
Does anyone else have a problem recommending doing this? or-
I just have a couple of questions.
Sure.
So the Study Island budget, the money that's there right now, will we need to keep Study Island for a bridge year at all?
No, I think we're okay.
we have a
I'm
contract.
very confident we're okay. I am absolutely confident we're okay.
There's no contract that we're tied
No,
into?
we're not tied into anything. We're
Okay.
year by year with Study Island.
Okay, and then online,
Well, I guess when do we have to make the commitment for Study Island for next year?
I can hold them, but they're pestering me right now, to be honest with you. I'm sure they've heard through the grapevine that we were fishing around here, and so they've actually been emailing me about once a week. But the reality of it is I've been putting them off because I know this is in the background right now. So
Okay.
I didn't want to commit until I was comfortable. I had reached out to our buildings and spoken with some staff and got some feedback from them in regards to the use of Study Island. Spoken to my building administration, got some feedback with them. I had to make sure I was comfortable with the functionality of their assessment software, which I am. And the last piece I just waited for, they just finished the alignment with the Future Ready Index, which is the research behind that. They just finished that and got the correlations for me, because I need that in the long term to recommend so that we can use that as a data point in the Future Ready Index and how they're evaluating schools in the future. And so they just got that to me last week, which is ahead of some of the bigger players. But that also puts my mind at ease that they're doing what they said they could do and are willing to do. So.
Okay, but if they didn't do that, you didn't have another way to come up with the future ready numbers?
Study Island is
Study
in
Island,
the process. They're
okay.
a little slower than doing it. So to answer that question is this year I still am trying to get this out of Study Island. So there's also districts that use just Study Island, not for a data warehouse, but they use Study Island, and they're trying to do the same thing, but we're all in a holding pattern on that particular piece. If they do not, what it reverts back to is PSSA, pure PSSA. You just don't get that metric in. It doesn't help. But really, as with anything, the more data points you have, the more reliable the data is when you have multiple data points that are showing the same thing or lack of same thing, then it's better. It's a better evaluation of schools to the extent the standardized test do or don't do that.
Okay.
And then our online grading that the parents see, is that through the BCIU?
That's through the IU, the online.
Zoology or schoolology?
No, that's not what I mean. No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm
okay.
talking about just online grading. Yeah, hack.
Okay.
So will we keep that?
Hack isn't.
Because there is something labeled like GPA, and so that's just internal, the GPA functionality and all that.
That's side. Those are side, like little small. You know what I mean? Side things there. Hack. This does not replace hack in any way, shape, or form.
And then the other question was, or Schoology.
No, it does not. It definitely does not replace Schoology.
And
Great question.
then my last question was, We've talked about in the curriculum and instruction committee about the individualized plan that we're trying to get approved by the state Department of Education, where we will be might be evaluated by something that's a little tailored.
Yeah.
Would we be able to work with them to do that tailoring once that's approved?
Yes, to answer your question, that's the research they just provided to me last week that I'm still waiting for from Study Island.
Okay.
And so there's a part that the vendor, the short answer is, in order to use these non-PSSA types of metrics that the state has proposed this year, with the exception of the guidance piece, the state, there's a thing that you have to do for the state. Part of that is the vendor has to provide research basically saying that the assessment truly does measure the students' attainment of the academic standards. And there has to be research behind that. This group has already done this because they're a Pennsylvania-based company. Study Island is behind on that. They have not produced that for us yet. I requested that a month ago from them. They're working on it. They're good. They feel confident. I've seen their correlations.
Okay.
But the reality of it is these guys jumped to it because they have so many Pennsylvania clients. So it's just good service on their part.
Okay, those were the only questions.
Great questions.
Questions
Okay.
I had. So.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Let's see, we'll move on to the next topic, financial system upgrade.
Oh, thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Do we need to?
Do we need to vote on that, to put it on?
I don't know.
I think we just need a consensus. I don't think we need a formal vote.
Okay. Well, I guess it's
So,
3-0.
I guess.
yes,
Okay.
so we're going to include a proposal for the meeting next
I
Monday.
think it makes sense.
Okay,
And
I just
lem-
wanted it on
Yep.
record.
I just wanted
that
a
way-
clarification that that will be a roughly similar amount of money. I know it'll be a little different, but it will be moving from your budget to technology's budget.
Correct.
Is
Yes.
that correct?
It will not, I will take it out of my.
But any staff development for the stuff will stay in your
We'll stay
budget?
any staff
Okay,
development.
that makes sense.
So there will be a reduction to your budget.
Yeah, you will see a reduction in my budget as a result.
And this is already included in the technology budget.
Study
proposal.
Island is included in my budget right now, so you'll see a reduction.
We're just going to have a reduction there.
And an increase
that-
there.
an
But
increase there.
we're not really going to have an increase. This is already included in the proposed budget for next year, right, in the technology section.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, so we're just not going to look at
Got it.
considering removing it.
Yeah.
Got it.
So at this point, we're just committing to signing a contract, which
Yeah.
is committing to leaving it in the budget.
So what you'll see on, as soon as they get the contract drawn up, and I'll look through it, and I'll supers look through it, we'll just put it on the board-approved contract, like the contracts that you guys get on the agenda.
Okay.
We were too still.
Oh my gosh.
A little more animated.
Give Julie a minute or two to get back.
Yeah, we know so she can start.
So this is a system replacement that you're proposing, is it?
Complete system replacement.
What do you have now?
CSIU. Very antiquated. It's, and I would love to say that it's bad as 10X, but I'm not sure which one's worse, honestly. It's very old and antiquated. What they're trying to do is CSIU has been moving towards window-based for 10 years?
Minimal.
5 years, whatever. They've been promising to move everybody into this new system. They were behind the eight ball. They missed the mark, is what they did. They had a very good system, and a lot of people were using it, but they didn't upgrade fast enough. And now they're at the point where they are upgrading, but I mean, I've heard promises for at least the last 5 years, 6 years, and we've seen nothing.
Okay.
Absolutely nothing. We pay the same amount annually on that first page for CSIU as we would for the.
Oh, so it's another situation of you're
which is
flipping one
replacing
for another.
What we have. However, the startup cost is gonna be, there's always that startup where they're gonna have to implement the training, come in and they put a project team together. They come in, they have a special person that does the payroll section, the black box for HR, they do the AP, they have certain people, they have a project team leader, they sit with us the whole time. I implemented it at Exeter,
This is what we use in Springfield.
and you use it at
Yeah.
Springford too, because, yeah, I interviewed there.
Yeah.
I interviewed there, because I know they got me because they wanted to see me, because I had all that experience with Skyward.
Right.
I implemented the entire setup. I was the lead on all of it. I worked directly with IT. The
Okay.
business manager left it all to me to do, and she did that piece, I did this piece. So,
So you said we're using CSIU as the system today, and you said they're moving towards Windows? What is the?
I have
if
no
it's-
idea how they're gonna do the Windows based, but it's not gonna be anything as sophisticated as this.
Yeah, they're moving towards a web-based system. Currently, it's a Fox Pro database that we have to terminal into. It's a home pro.
I have a lot of.
I don't even know what that is.
No,
I
you
do,
wouldn't.
and
You
you
shouldn't,
don't.
because it
Yeah.
shouldn't be around
Oh,
anymore.
Right,
I-
it's
I
very
don't
old
even-
That's
technology.
how, that's very, very old.
I think all four of us have a pretty strong technology background, and we can say that's awful, and it's the most user-unfriendly software.
It's hard.
Know every single step, specifically the order, and it's not easy to use, and it has its own language and terminology, and the way you search
Wow.
and the way you find it, it's
Yeah,
very
CSIU is
antiquated.
the Central Susquehanna Intermediate Unit. It's a homegrown product for that intermediate unit that at one point served the state, but
Sure.
that point has come and gone years ago.
As an
Who still
example,
uses it besides us?
Ole uses it.
Yeah, Ole still has it, Wyman Missing has it, but is about to dump it. A number of districts are in the
Where's the
similar
Wide
boat.
Missing going?
East Finance.
You find it, I didn't like that as much.
Well,
This one better.
yeah, correct.
When they did the,
Our student information system, eSchool Plus, has a similar package here. eSchool Plus got bought out by Power School last year, and support has really dramatically declined in product upgrades and that sort of thing. So one of the reasons Kathy looked at this product is, as we're looking at a student information system moving forward, this would be the top contender from a student information side. So
Skyward?
yes, yeah, correct. So from an integration standpoint, this is putting in those foundational blocks as well, looking towards the future.
Good to know.
that's what Exeter did. Exeter went student and financial.
Okay.
And I interviewed a bunch of different places. We scoped out all the different vendors that are available between then and, what do we do here? There's another one.
Infinite Campus, but they did not have the financial side
Yeah.
for Pennsylvania.
Okay. Well, can you talk to some of these numbers? I'm a little confused by, is this, you purchased the software or the one-time investment for $63,000? What do we get for that?
The one-time investment, if you look at the second page, that gives you the additional functionality, the accounts receivable, the e-sign. That's the training piece where they need to set it up. They have to put the signature blocks in, import fixed assets from one system to their system. There's the insurance tracker and the True Time, which is the time lapse, sorry. We use ASOP now, so we would dump that piece with ASOP and use this.
Okay, but so it looks like the core package is $45,000 and there's additional functionality that you're buying. Are we buying a software license that will own for?
Yeah, we pay the licensing fee.
But
We'll own the software and we can host it on us.
Okay.
Or you can use IS Corp.
Okay, so we're buying the software for $63,000, services to implement it,
Yes.
$53,000,
And
and
then the license fee for the year.
then the license fee, that's
It's
not
only
just,
for the year.
yeah, that's not just a support fee, so that's what has me confused. That doesn't sound like we really own the license for, that's why I'm a little confused by the
It's an
one-time
annual
investment.
contract You pay every year, that's
Yes.
it.
Yeah, you're
That's
paying for
settled.
updates, basically. If you look at the product, or the modules where that's hitting, it's stuff that's typically updated yearly, IRS, or different things like that. So you're paying, it's your support, it's your maintenance, it's your product updates, that sort of
Okay.
thing.
But if I didn't pay that, if I chose not to pay that for a year, if I had a budget crunch, I wouldn't be able to use the software that I own.
You would be able to use
You
it
wouldn't be able to use
effectively.
it.
Yeah.
Do you own it or are you contracting to use their software?
No, you own it, but you're paying the contract for the update. So tax code that changed this year. If we didn't have the subscription, we wouldn't have been able to effectively implement.
The
you know,
tax code, all the PDE updates, all that stuff would not be included. We'd have to
Okay.
pay that annually.
It's, you know,
It's the same concept with the CSIU. They load all that stuff. If we have support, we pay a small fee. I think we're on a different plan where we pay a small fee every time we call support.
So you pay an additional fee if you need support. Is that for,
That's what we do for CSIU now.
Yeah, it's a per major incident, you know.
Because we've had the software so long,
Mhm.
you wouldn't,
but for this, the annual fee would cover support?
covers
if you
the
okay.
support,
All right,
correct.
good. Okay.
Sorry, I stepped out for a second, so you might have said this already. This is from a year ago, so did they, and it says that the pricing is only good for like 30 days,
yeah, this
age
is the
7?
pricing. I just talked to him the other day.
Oh, so you verified that he's gonna hold,
Absolutely.
he's holding
I
that
work
pricing?
with Ben, the sales rep on this. I work with him at Exeter as well.
Okay,
So we went back and forth a little bit. I wanted to make sure we had the best pricing.
okay, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure
And we are
that
still
he's
good.
not, I mean, and you know, if it were like slightly bigger because it's been a year, that's not necessarily a non-starter. I just would want to know that before we vote on it.
Absolutely.
In the other-
absolutely.
in the other
I
meeting.
just followed up the other day because what we were thinking is that we might have just, I'm not saying that we're going to have a large amount at the end of the year, but we may have enough at the end of the year that I can push the 153 to this year to get us started.
Got it. Mhm.
And then go forward with the annual. Instead of including it in next year's budget, we can try to squeeze it out of this year,
Yeah.
the major implementation fee. And they'll take that money and then we can just start the implementation in June. Just start getting things ready, bring the project team in, and that way you're not even seeing it. It's a reduction in the entire budget for next year.
Okay, so you think,
There are several things, we can do different things there.
so you think you might have room to bring forward the 153?
I believe we can. If you guys give me the okay that I can do this, then I can make sure that it will happen.
And how much again are we paying each year for the CSIU?
It's between 18 and 19,000. It goes up each year. So we're paying for the,
It's like the same as the yearly fee here.
this is a much better, this is actually, when you factor in the cost, this plus the ASOP piece, this
Right.
actually comes out to like $400 cheaper annually. than-
Okay, so you're getting rid of ASOP too?
Getting rid of the time clock is bear time.
Time clock,
Is
ASOP.
there-
ASOP, there's a other piece that we use for sub, or.
We do
for
frontline ASOP, but that's just for our subs, but it doesn't have anything to do with Skyward. So I
Correct.
didn't understand.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, we're just, the time clock piece of Frontline's system was about $6,500, so that would fall out and just integrate in with the business system, is what would happen.
And that's just for your non-contracted employees?
Yeah, it's the support
aides,
staff primarily,
okay.
yep, yep.
And then we don't use it for sub-services anymore.
Yeah.
Yes, ASAP, yeah.
We do use
Yeah,
that for
ASAP, we do our
sub-services.
tracking for our staff absences and our sub-sub.
Trying to remember exactly what we do. Stay at one school district.
So I see some of this, I was looking at the optional services, the secure cloud computing, is that?
Yes, there are two, but now Exeter used IS Corp. They host it outside.
Okay,
We would,
Yeah, we're comfortable hosting it inside. From a maintenance perspective, we're already maintaining a financial system in-house. The cost to host it outside, really, the benefit's not there for us.
okay, so it'd be more expensive, so I was just looking at, that part of it, I want to take a look at this, but that's a 3-year deal, but it says that it's 3,500 students. We're close to that at this point, right?
Yeah, we take about 50.
Yeah. So I guess if we go over that, there would be a penalty, or?
Most of them just do a true-up each year. They wouldn't necessarily penalize you during the school year.
they'll true it up and raise the price next year.
Yeah, but we've been on the decline, so that we haven't luckily had to face that part of it at least.
Okay, and it looks like the pricing is, this is a 5-year commitment to maintenance, or just a on their part, I assume, or,
Yeah, we do it 5 years.
okay. and I didn't, it looks like it's increasing. What is that percentage, do you know?
3.8%, I think was it, how was it?
Oh, there it is.
3.8%.
But that's an estimate, that's not, they're not committing to those prices now? It's a cost projection based on estimated annual increases,
Okay.
so it could be anything.
Yeah, correct. Some of our contracts, we do put in a not to exceed.
Yeah, I think we should.
3.8, all 3.3 to 5% is typically what we see for packages, so they're within industry expectations, but yeah, I don't believe they're firmly committed to these not to
Okay.
exceeds.
Yeah, I think if we could get something to not to exceed, that you wouldn't want to see it going up, I mean, this, it could go up 25%.
Well, this is a proposal. When we get closer to a contract, then we will contract that in, and then
Okay, good.
then that'll be more precise.
Okay,
And I think he's reaching out to me now because he wants to put the implementation team together, and in order for him to do the project, he wants to set a project leader and start setting that up, and being that it's April.
I was gonna say, will it be able to come online for,
It won't be like starting 7/1, because, we're gonna have to run dual for just a little while until we know that all the data went over.
when do they expect?
It's been pretty quick. We did it in 1 year's time. We had every piece, because you gotta kind of do each piece.
Right, your W-2s, you want to end December 31st.
You want the, W-2s are December 31st, but now, he said that it really didn't matter with the contract. Like, I always wanted to do the contracts on a fiscal year. And he says, no, they have a new way of doing it now that, I'm like, oh, okay, cool. As long as that makes sense.
And will we train, the training team will be in the summer for the implementation?
There'll be training in the summer. There'll also be the trainer, and then go in when it's convenient. Because down at the teacher level, that's where the POs are done at this point.
Well,
And
our
the
teachers
budgets,
are hard copy.
the budgets aren't done on Excel spreadsheets anymore. They're actually inside Skyward.
So it will need to be for that, will be October. To have up and running for our teachers, because we budget for the following fiscal year in
Yeah.
September, October.
Be a whole timetable on how they expect to roll it out.
what is exactly included in the services? Is that customization or,
And they have to come in and they're gonna use our system. It's the whole converting piece, and they sit here and they train us. They're here in-house completely until
Okay.
we're trained. There's no limitation, as far as the hours are concerned, they have a set time frame. Like that week, they're gonna be doing payroll.
Mhm.
We're there till 6 or 7 at night. We were there at Exeter for hours. I mean, it's not a set, you're trained until you're trained.
Okay, well, it looks like it says it's on-site for 6 days and then 150 web hours is what they're proposing?
Yes, the web hours are afterwards, yep.
Okay. Would we have to keep the current system for another year, it sounds like? Do we have to run parallel? I mean, how are you going to produce some of the documents?
I would have to, we kept the other system for a year just
Yeah.
to make sure. You just want to make sure that you're completely running. You'd run the payroll on one and you run the payroll on the other one,
Right.
make sure that it came out the same.
Right, yeah, I guess it's that or there'd be some kind of cutover. You do have to, the W-2 information is currently in CSIU, that you'll have a split year.
Yes.
So for the next fiscal year, we'll have to leave in the budget for the $19,000 for CISU.
For CSIU, but if I could move the
CSIU.
most of that 153 over to this year, you're still seeing the savings for the budget for next.
Okay. So you included in the budget proposal the 153 for next year?
Yes,
Where was that included?
in the 650, it's in the same area as Hurley's.
Okay. And the CSIU budget, the same place or the 18,000?
There's enough in there for the CSIU as well.
What wasn't spent, what wasn't spent this year, that there's so much left?
Right now, that's in different categories all over the place, but I had to put a lot of money into special ed, but there's other areas like, there's board is there's certain legal that we intend for legal services that we're not there. So I know that at the end of the year, as I'm doing my projections, I'm moving in closer to the numbers. So it's kind of like all over the place, but there's pieces that you can grab to come up with that.
Sounds like most everybody stayed on target for their budget, but some came in under budget, I believe.
Well, I think this might be part of the process where our fund balance projections
Right.
always seem to be higher
See,
than
the
what we
fund balance
forecast.
usually comes in, and we do, this year it's going to be lower than it has been, I do believe, just
Okay.
by the numbers
And-
I'm looking at, but $153,000 is not a bad.
And, I know it's not for this conversation, but I just had my first meeting at the Berks EIT, and we budget that we get our earned income tax is like, it goes up by 1% a year. They're projecting it went up by 4% this year for us. And those kind of things happen too.
Yeah,
It's like
those are
we
good things.
budgeted for the health insurance to be a certain, like they're telling us, what, 9% this year?
And it's way less than they had said
But I have a
last
feeling
year.
when we come in for 1890, I don't think they're going to increase it by 9%.
Yeah.
So we'll be budgeting for that kind of stuff, but those are where you're, and that.
I was just curious if there was some
target.
major purchase that we didn't,
No.
it's just a little bit here, a little bit there that
Yeah.
just
It's
added.
kind of all over, different pieces, different places.
And if there's like a missing jungle gym somewhere or something like that.
I'm sure somebody would.
But we didn't like cheerleading users.
Misplaced a
Oh,
map.
it was the cheerleading uniforms. That's right. I bought them myself. That was it. That was it. Good answer. Good answer.
I know you said Skyward is the leading candidate for the future student information system. Did we look at any other competitors? Or?
Infinite Campus is the other one we took a look at.
Okay.
Infinite Campus is a product that the Berks IU is also going to host, similar to eSchool. We discounted them simply because of what you're looking at right now, the financial piece. They do not have a VA compliant financial application, so we wouldn't be able to have that tight integration. Yeah, Sapphire was the other student information system, but they lack a financial application, just period.
Okay.
So on the student information side, that's going to continue probably for another year. There's a lot more that touches in the district before we'll settle on a product on that regard.
Yeah. So I'm just curious, and I assume that you could get a financial system that didn't necessarily come packaged with the.
Yeah, if it came down to,
Yeah.
this is amazing over here, then
Right.
we break from the chain there.
Yeah, I have no idea as far as what typical cost of these things are. Is that in line with the competitive costs?
For the most part, education in general, they keep their prices similar just because of, A, it's public record, so people can see what they're pricing, and B, it's a much smaller sector, so they have to kind of keep all their pricing within reason, simply because they'll be out in the market that much quicker.
Okay. As far as the process of getting some formal contract that we can look at and consider, is that,
I can ask them tomorrow and we'll get one.
okay?
They're ready to go. He's been, Ben's been calling me all year, so.
Any thoughts from the group? No? No questions? Well, yeah, at this point, I think I'd like to just see, some of this formalized, see what the new dates, and like I said, would like to see some kind of generic exceed on the annual
Absolutely.
increases. All right. We're good, thank you.
I'm going to walk you guys through a presentation. I promise not to do this too often, but I figured in this regard, this one will be a little bit helpful to see visually as we talk about our assets
Okay.
and project plans and all that. Just riveting information. That's true, yes.
Yeah, if you're interested in seeing the rest, you can stay. If not,
Go spend time with the kids.
It's going to be fun.
You can fill me in dollars later. It's all in the budget, right? I got the money part, so it's all good. Thanks.
Have a good night.
Thanks.
All right. Like I said, we'll take a look at our asset overview. We're going to look at infrastructure and our client devices as well. So from an infrastructure standpoint, what we actually consider that is obviously our network equipment. I'm sorry, this isn't bright.
You can turn off another one.
Yeah. Got it. So that's our network switches, our access points, our firewall. We also maintain our in-house phone system, so our communication equipment falls under that heading. Somewhat better, but not much. I don't want to sit in the dark in this building. Our virtual environment, so that's mostly our servers. A SAN is a storage device, and our file and application server, so storing files, running things, like the CSIU system would be an application server. And then we have appliances, so that's our spam firewall, our email archive, our data backups, and our web filter are all physical appliances in our data center. So I'm not going to talk about all those things tonight. I'm just going to focus tonight on our network equipment and looking at where we're going. We'll take a look at where we were initially. So last 3 years, some of the projects we've completed. Back in 2015, we did a simple upgrade for our backup appliance. That's basically just capturing our data. It's the financial system. It's our email server. It's our file servers, just so we have some data retention. So that was upgraded about 3 years ago.
Is that in the data center? Or in?
That is, yeah. We have physical backups in the data center. We also offload what we consider critical data, which is essentially our email database and the financial system to offsite as well. So we have an additional recovery standpoint for that.
Okay.
And in 2015, our web filter upgrade occurred. That's due for replacement this year. In 2016, we did an upgrade to our virtual environment. What that means is basically all of our servers were upgraded. So virtual environment, rather than having each individual server, like if you walked into a computer lab, you see 25 computers. In a virtual environment, they're all stored on beefy servers, basically. Cuts down on power consumption, that sort of thing, and also just from a physical hardware perspective. So that was upgraded in 2016, along with our storage controller, which is, just think of that as a gigantic external hard drive, that sort of thing that powers that environment.
Can I ask which virtual environment you're using?
Hyper-V.
Hyper-V.
So we have an agreement with Microsoft that covers all of our software licensing, so that's included. Prior to that upgrade, we were VMware, but we just dropped VMware. A, because we weren't taking advantage of most of the features, and B, it was just an unnecessary cost because Hyper-V was included.
Okay.
We also started switch upgrades at that time. So we did 10 48-port switches, replacing 20 24-port switches. So and actively every year we're doing 48-port now rather than 24-port, just from a management perspective and also just from an overall inventory perspective, reducing the number of switches in each closet.
Still taking a lot of notes. Can I get a copy of that one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Good. And switches, you using Cisco or?
No, we use HP. We're migrating towards Meraki, which is an offshoot of Cisco. The switches in question that are being replaced were all Dell switches.
Okay.
And then last year we did our high school wireless upgrade. We did the phone service upgrade at the middle school in Amity. And we also continued on that same path for switch upgrades. So again, 14, 48, replaced about 28, 24-port switches. So,
Question, high school wireless is ready to go with the upgrade?
yep, that's been running all year. It's been solid.
And it'll be able to support the iPads?
Correct. Yep. So the magic number to consider as we're talking about our infrastructure is 191. That's the number of network switches we have in the district. So that is there we go. That is powering our entire network: wireless access points, servers, desktop computers. Same as your home router at home, just on a much larger scale. From an age perspective, our target average age we'd like is 4, and our target average replacement age would be 7 years. And I very deliberately use the word target. There's some equipment that we do replace a little bit earlier than that, just because of its function. It's in a high traffic area, it's in a critical location, and there's some equipment that can go beyond those recommendations. It's in a low traffic area, it's not really serving any critical function, so deliberately we use the word target because it's not all in that, that exact 7 years that has to be replaced.
So when you say the target average age, that's the age that you would like your equipment to be at? Or?
Yeah, at any one time, I'd like all of it to be 4. Some obviously would be a little bit older, some would be a little bit newer.
Okay.
But in a moment, you'll see our average age right now is 11 years, so far exceeding the average age, and far exceeding the replacement age. And I didn't even provide a replacement age because we don't have a solid plan in place to really even calculate when some of this equipment will be replaced at that point. So we're not really in a good place from a network switch perspective.
Do you have significant maintenance charges for the older equipment, or?
We've been keeping pace. So the numbers we've been replacing, since we replaced about 30 last year, we're replacing equipment that had like a fan, air, different things like that. So we're maintaining. We're not really ahead of the curve, but we haven't had any substantial failures at this point either.
Okay.
So looking at it from a graph perspective, most of our equipment, you can see the limited number of replacement cycles we've gone through. And B, you can see most of it's at 12 years of age at the end of it. So, if I were to highlight an area, that red there, you can see the large quantity of our equipment, about 161 switches, are all outside of our desired replacement area. So, back in the 1-year-old from last year, the 2-year-old didn't substantially show itself, and then we had a small purchase about 4 years ago. That adds up to about 30 switches. That were replaced. So that is one of our key focus areas is these network switches. Now, the one thing to keep in mind is that 161 is not necessarily exactly what needs to be replaced. There was a time, and unfortunately it was right around the building project time, that the district, under previous leadership, adopted the idea that no matter where you go, you should be able to plug in a computer and get a network connection. Well, that means we're powering a lot of network connections that are not used ever in the classroom. So we do not need the same number of switches that are currently in use. So that number, as we're replacing, should overall go down from an inventory perspective.
Are you going to use wireless to replace that?
Yeah, wireless and just general deactivation of the ports. The ports were put in the room for flexibility, so you could locate equipment. If we choose to put the equipment on the left-hand side of the room, we don't need the right hand, the front, back, all those areas located. But wireless would be the primary driver as we're putting more laptops in place rather than desktop computers. So actually, and that's a great segue. We'll segue over to our wireless network. So at the high school, that is as I said, it's a Meraki wireless network. That was equipped replacement 1 year ago. And as we look at middle school, Amity, Birdsboro, Monocacy, Admin, basically everywhere else, that is a Ruckus wireless system. And that's about 7 years old. And the important thing to note there is that equipment has been end of life. So we no longer receive any warranty claims on it, no longer receive any system updates or anything else like that. Basically, as it exists in the current status is how it would exist moving forward.
Yeah, I've never heard of Ruckus before.
Yeah, I inherited that system. It wasn't a bad system, but it can be better.
Okay.
Again, similar numbers here, 4 and 7. That's generally for most of our infrastructure. We look at those numbers outside of server equipment. In this case, though, we are on target. I put a little asterisk next to on target. That's based on this summer's project that would get us in compliance with that. So we'd be replacing that equipment on time. So no catastrophes really in the future, hopefully, with that equipment, knock on wood, that we get through the next 2 months.
So this summer's project, is that something that's been budgeted and
Correct. Everything I'm talking about tonight is in the current budget.
is it for this year? Or?
For 18-19, the coming fiscal year, come July 1st.
Okay.
Yeah, all right. Last but not least, our firewall. That is a Cisco device currently. It's a 5500 series. That was deployed in 2014. And for target replacement age, we're looking at 5 years. We're upgrading that a year early, and we'll talk about that in a minute when we look at our summer plans, but that's mostly because our bandwidth has exceeded or is projected to exceed capabilities of that device next year. So we're going to replace that next year. We'll keep it on hand for another purpose, but we're 1 year ahead of schedule on that one. So actually looking at our 2018 upgrade plans, so this is again only from the infrastructure standpoint. From a network switch perspective, we're staying in the same game plan, 14, 48 port switches, again going after 28, 24 port switches. From a wireless access point standpoint, it's a total replacement at the middle school at Amity and Monocacy. We would decommission the BEC network. We'll have devices to provide on-demand wireless should it be necessary for any events or any other uses for that building.
Is there equipment there that you can repurpose, or
What's that?
the equipment that's at BEC, can you put it other places, or is
It's
it?
that same ruckus system,
Okay,
so
so
we
it's
would phase it out. We would just
okay.
have a couple of Meraki access points that typically we have some on the shelf to pop up in large events or different things like that, so we would go that route.
So we're going to move up to using the same vendor for all the
Yes.
school buildings? Okay.
Absolutely, yep. And I should note, the network switches are also the same brand, the firewalls also the same brand. They offer a comprehensive integration standpoint that we can get some additional feature sets when you use their products across the board.
When you say the firewall, it's the same brand, you're,
Meraki.
that's not the core firewall, you're talking about the Cisco 5500?
The Cisco 5500 is our core firewall. This would be a Meraki firewall replacing the Cisco.
Oh, so you're gonna use okay.
Yes,
Meraki.
yep.
That's okay, we've replaced Cisco with Palo Alto, and
Oh, okay. Did you look
they're
at
better,
Palo?
cheaper, yeah.
Yeah, Cisco has priced, I think Cisco has priced themselves deliberately out of the market. They're pushing Meraki in the education space. It's
Okay.
a scaled down feature set, but
Good.
yeah, actually Palo Alto was one of the other ones, and SonicWall was one that we looked at as well.
Okay.
And as we're talking about the firewall, another good segue. Again, replacing that unit to accommodate additional traffic in the district. And the current device will just be assigned as a VPN tunnel for remote connections, so our faculty connecting from home with their laptops, that sort of thing. So of course, the million-dollar question, the budget details. This equipment shows up in line 788. That's District Technology Infrastructure Assets in the chart of accounts for PDE.
Okay.
Our target budget was $226,000. As we're negotiating with vendors, that budget, and this is reflected in the most recent budget workshop, we've reduced that about $60,000 down to $166,000 based on quantity reductions and also just general price negotiations as well. The other thing we have taken advantage of is E-rate funding. So E-rate is a program that schools participate in. It's a program run by the FCC that we can seek reimbursement. They reimburse A, our internet connection, and B, they have what's called Category 2 funding. So that's primarily going after broadband and wireless access in schools. So we receive a 50% reimbursement, so that equals about $98,000 there. So that money is factored in, receiving that in our budget. Should we not receive approval, we'd adjust quantities accordingly. So I just want to make sure that that number is accounted for in our budget number. We should not expect $98,000 to pop back into the budget. We've already factored it in.
Okay.
So we took advantage of that last year to the tune of about $30,000. We have approximately $300,000 left available to us. It's a 5-year cycle, so over the next 3 years, you would look for about $100,000 of reimbursement from the feds in that program. And that has to be used for wireless network switching, anything that for connectivity purposes is what that has to be used for.
Okay.
So
So
we-
we spend the money and then get reimbursed, is that how it works? or-
Basically, what we do is when we cut the purchase order, we pay 50%, and then the vendor seeks the other 50% back to them, so we don't have to
Okay.
really go through the paperwork or anything else like that on our end. Questions from an infrastructure standpoint before we move on to classroom technology?
I guess the one question, you're moving to the Meraki firewall. I assume that you had someone trained with the Cisco firewall. Is there training that's going to be required for moving?
Minimal. So actually, one of the reasons we're going the Meraki route is simply from a user interface standpoint. It's I don't want to say it's dumbed down, but it's much simpler to manage. Our Cisco, we primarily manage via command line. A lot of our switches as well. Meraki is more of a GUI.
Okay.
So we're comfortable with that from our access system or our wireless access system, and from the firewall perspective.
Okay.
We'll,
So you're
we'll
already
receive
using
some installation training, but similar concepts, as far as your different layers in the firewall, especially a navigation standpoint.
So no additional training budgeted for?
No, there's definitely no training
Okay.
in that regard.
Right. And you had mentioned the web filter
Yep.
being replaced. Is it Meraki as well? or-
No, that would
Okay.
be, our current web filter is Lightspeed, and we will more than likely stay with them. We're in the process, actually next week, we have a call with them again. We've evaluated a couple other products. Meraki is more an enterprise solution that, tailors to education, but so
Okay.
they lack certain education-specific features that we look for. Their feature set is more akin to private industry kind of web filtering that you want to do. It doesn't get as granular like we need to with students and that sort of thing. So
Okay.
they offer a solution, but we opted not to pursue that any further when we saw their feature set.
Okay. That's something that you have in the data center, your web filter? Or?
So the current web filter is in. The product we're evaluating from Lightspeed would be a cloud-hosted solution.
Okay.
So it's just an appliance out of our data center. B, looking at the one-to-one. We like that just because then the students aren't relying on a connection back into the district. They're relying on.
That's true. I guess we're going to let the students take the iPads home, and we're still going to filter. You're going to be able to
Yes,
use Lightspeed
absolutely.
to filter from the
Yeah,
cloud? Good,
absolutely.
good. Okay. All right.
So looking at our client devices, so client device, what is that? That's basically what most people know as technology. So that's our desktops, it's our laptops, it's some Chromebooks that we have in the district, it's iPads, it's our projectors, it's our smart boards, it's our document cameras, it's our printers, it's anything that plugs into a wall is what I get phone calls for, it seems. So if we don't manage it, but we find out some days that we do actually manage it. So basically anything that the teachers are using on a daily basis. Again, I won't touch on all those topics tonight. We'll just look at our desktop and laptops. That's what we typically replace on a yearly basis. And again, giving you guys a magic number. That magic number in that area is 2,000. That's the approximate number of Windows desktops and laptops that we have in the district. The actual number is about 1987 devices is what we have from a Windows perspective.
Okay, quick question before
Yep.
you move on. The iPads and the Chromebooks, those are teachers that have them, or?
The Chromebooks are student-based,
Okay.
and the iPads are mixed. They would be faculty or students.
So we have students that have personal iPads? and-
No, they're shared devices.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah, the only place we'll have, assigned devices would be the high school next year with the
Okay.
one-to-one.
all right, thanks.
So looking at our desktop and laptop, same chart, our target average age and our target replacement age. So again, same thing applies with the word target there. So 2 to 3 years would be our average age. Replacement would be 4 to 5 years. So 4, looking at frontline laptops, 5 years looking at frontline desktops, things that are used on a daily basis. We do have other equipment that's in place for like employee kiosks. I mean, that we pretty much just run into the ground. We're not really worried about replacement ages for that. Some classroom computers are not used as heavily as an instructional lab. Again, we don't replace those as quickly as places where teaching is actually occurring in a lab environment or something like that. So again, it's just a guidance. It's not hard and fast. In actuality, our average age is about 4 years, and we're currently replacing equipment on an 8-year cycle. So our average age is, basically when we'd like to be replacing equipment. The actual time frame that we're replacing it is about 8 years. So one of the things I've mentioned a couple times is some of our computers are older than our students who are actually using them down at the kindergarten level or certain things like that.
Are we buying these devices today?
Yeah, currently we're in a purchase due to the lack of a replacement plan. If we can get that number down, that's when we could more reasonably entertain a lease.
I would think so, yeah. If you're really want to get to your target of 4 to 5 years, you
Yeah.
should be able to lease. so.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
again, graphing that one out. So the picture is overall a little bit better on the client end. If we look at that graph, you can see most of our computers fall in that 4 or newer area. If I put the red section over it again, it's only about 521 computers, so you can do the math there. About 25% are out of compliance, so we've been making strides in that area. And again, some computers will deliberately fall in that area, but you can see at the 5 and 8 year mark, particularly our 2 large groups of computers. 7 years ago, that correlates to the budget crisis in the district. They chose not to replace any computers in that 2010-2011 timeframe, so that's why you see missing data there. Unfortunately, nothing too substantial in the 9 to 10 year mark. So we're making progress in that area. Again, work to be done, but much happier picture compared to the infrastructure. So looking at the summer 2018 upgrades for these devices, from a desktop laptop perspective, we're looking at approximately 125 desktops. Those are replacing primarily 8-year-old devices there. We have approximately 115 faculty laptops. That's our elementary staff. Our secondary staff at the middle school and high school were replaced last year. This year it would be our Birdsboro, Amity, and Monocacy elementary staff. Their devices are approximately 5 years old.
And what do we do with them?
Some of them will be flat out retired. Some of them we keep on hand as that's our in-house stock. So the faculty devices from last year, we had a need at the middle school. We reassigned them over there to fill a stock gap this year. And then we're also replacing 160 student cart laptops. They're in a 5 to 6 year old device range. So the 6-year-old devices would be actually what I just described. They're devices that we had to put back into circulation to fill an unexpected need.
Okay. What kind of laptops are we typically buying?
Dell.
Dell.
The devices that are being replaced were HP. We had a number of issues from a hard drive failure perspective with those, so we've been Dell for the last 2 purchasing cycles. And most indications are we'll end up with Dell again this year.
Okay.
And then we have approximately 260 Chromebooks targeting specifically Amity Elementary. We're doing 2 things there. We're going Chromebooks in that building instead of Windows devices simply because of the use. Surveying the teachers, they're doing mostly web-based activities. They're not actually utilizing any installed programs on the devices. So our Chromebook pricing comes in about half the price of a Windows computer. So we can increase the number of computers available in the classroom. Based on that number, it would be 8. Currently, they have 2 to 4. So one of the frequent requests for about the last 3 years has been an increase in devices for student centers to be able to cycle around in their classroom. So that would accomplish that and phase out the Windows computers in that regard. The 160 above it student laptop carts would allow 2 carts in the building yet for Windows devices, anything like that. But from a web-based perspective, we're going after the Chromebooks just to provide more access to the students without, really cutting back on any software packages or anything like that.
Okay. And which schools are these?
This would be Amity,
This
3 to
is
5.
Amity.
Yeah.
Okay.
So iPads, we've rolled out iPads to all of our faculty with the exception of the middle school. This would be their year that we're rolling them out to the faculty. And projector-wise, we are also doing a projector replacement at the middle school. Their projectors are about 7 years old. 2 primary drivers for that is they lack HDMI capability. A lot of our devices are phasing out VGA, which you guys would recognize more as like the blue cable at the end of a video display cord. And also they are 4:3 dimension, meaning they're square. Laptops are widescreen, so we don't have a full projection any longer with our devices. So those are due for replacement.
Question, all the teachers are getting iPads? You said the middle school
Just the other buildings have received them.
so every teacher has an iPad
Correct.
and a laptop?
Correct. Yep.
Do they
What
need
we've done
both?
is lowered the specs on the laptop, more projecting with their iPad and that sort of thing. We entertained a device that Megan's using right now as a all-in-one tablet device,
Right.
and that was a spectacular failure. So we ceased because we were hoping we could find one device that could do both functionalities, and that did not end well for us in any regard. Those devices had numerous issues. as she
I know
will
we've
attest to.
tried to push going to 1 device per person.
We tried. My iPad's in my bag because this doesn't always make it work. And in the classroom, depending on what you're doing, like the iPad has the ability for teachers to grade and enter their grades directly into Schoology or into, if they're using the gradebook, they can do that right away.
Mhm.
Whereas their laptop, having it at their desk, trying to connect to the projectors, the functionality versus typing up lesson plans, they have very different needs based on what you're doing.
Well, yeah, what the requirements that the iPad can't do is what I would question.
The iPad, it's keyboard, essentially.
They have keyboards.
They do. We have not chosen to purchase those.
Okay.
From a Windows application standpoint, they would be able to run some of that functionality. The iPad was largely to free the teacher, or encourage them to cease, the lecture-based presentations at the front of the room and circulate around the room, that sort of thing. But we do have, Photoshop, different things in the art program. That's not going to run on an iPad. those, we still have a fair amount of local installs that go on our teacher devices. Our special ed population, that only runs in, unfortunately, Internet Explorer, so that's just down and out completely in an
Okay.
iPad environment.
Are we using 365 for Microsoft or?
We have a 365 subscription. We still use the local Microsoft programs on the computer, but the Microsoft licensing that we have does entitle us to 365, the web-based version, and everything else as
Okay.
well.
And having used all the different programs, there is not the functionality to take what either exists or even in creation in Microsoft Word, which is still the easiest format for most of our staff, if not all of our staff, and even trying to use the other, whether it be the Apple version or the Google version of the word processing,
Yeah.
Microsoft Word is still better and easier to use.
But you can run Word on the iPad. I've done
Yeah,
it.
it's not pretty though.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I hate it, to be honest with you.
Okay, I haven't used an iPad in a while, but a couple of years ago, it didn't seem to be any different. It worked
It's-
anyway.
A different mindset, essentially, you don't have the mouse and,
No, yeah, oh, yeah,
Yeah.
that,
yeah.
okay.
And I'm comfortable with both devices. It's a matter of using them both. I use them very differently.
Okay.
So looking at budget details again, this shows up on 768 is the end user equipment hardware purchases. The submitted budget was about 464,000. We're actively in negotiation standpoint for this equipment, so our anticipated reduction there is 40,000, but that's not a final number. Really at 3 o'clock today, I was on the phone again with Dell, going back and forth with pricing, so that has not been locked in yet. We're still kicking back to them, so we do anticipate a reduction there. Around 40,000 could go up. I do not expect that to go backwards, but I do want to leave some opening that could increase as well.
Okay.
Any questions as far as the, yep, that is it. The client devices are concerned as far as that purchase.
No, other than future revisiting of the multiple devices for people, but,
Yeah, we looked at on that
Surface?
topic, the Microsoft Surface was
Yeah.
the other one we entertained.
yeah,
Pricing wise, it wasn't as cheap.
Yeah.
Basically,
they're getting out of the hardware business now. But
What's that?
Microsoft, that's going to be going away too. I think
Yeah.
they've surrendered.
Yep. Laptop and iPad combined, we basically are at about 750 for the two combined for them per teacher.
Okay.
Previously, we were at about $800 a laptop that they were purchasing, so we rolled back
Oh, okay.
about $300 in the laptop cost, and then use some of that towards the iPad.
Okay. So the total expenditure for this fiscal year, you had the 400,000 for the clients, and what
Yep.
was it? What is the total number then? I just want to see, does it make sense to look to finance some of this or to put it,
So we'd be looking at about 560 to
Total?
between 550 and 600, I guess would be your number.
okay?
From a bond issue perspective, what you talked about
Yeah.
previously.
Yeah, no, but,
Yeah.
yeah, I think even, I think unless we get to like $1 million for the year, even looking to finance it,
Yeah.
it doesn't make sense. but-
I don't believe we would ever hit $1 million per year. I see
Okay.
the one-time cost if we wanted to get everything caught up
Mhm.
and then to a lease. I think that's where,
Okay.
potentially some sort of financing or bond issue would go
Okay.
out. I don't anticipate our replacement costs ever to hit that amount of money on a yearly basis.
No.
Our budget, honestly has been ramping up. I believe we're hitting almost a level off point that we can start taking some big chunks out of our replacement age and bring that down at the current level we're at. So I don't anticipate any more substantial increases that we've seen for basically the last 3 years as we try and ramp up and hit this equipment.
Okay, but so for this year, it's 550 to 600,000 is the ballpark?
Yep.
I guess no opportunity or anything looking so you're, same thing for next year, I guess, is what you're saying?
Yeah, correct. Next year, the only thing that you would drop off is the firewall is about $25,000. However, we probably look at just upping switch replacements and just using that money to take chunks out of other areas. Pricing fluctuates year to year, so I mean there could be a small decrease, that sort of thing. But really, money that's assigned this year for certain projects that wouldn't occur next year, we would just reassign to continue hitting away at that network switch component there.
Okay.
Your professional services budget for this year is significantly higher than, and I assumed it was because of the iPads coming in?
Yeah, iPads, it's,
And so would that be the same for the following year, or would that be
Correct.
slightly lower?
no, that is ramped up mostly. It would be slightly lower because of the web filter falls under that.
Yeah, 1920. I
Yeah.
don't mean 1819.
Correct, yeah, so 1920, the web filter cost would not be in there.
Right.
That's budgeted as a one-time
One-time.
purchase.
Okay.
The other component that ramped up there was our internet connection. That
Right.
would stay,
Okay.
yep.
So you're increasing internet bandwidth, is that,
Yes, for the one-to-one, yes, yep.
okay.
Yep.
What are you,
About 1.2 gigs would be our connection. We're at about 600 meg now, so it's basically doubling it.
and who are you using?
We contract with the Berks IU. They have a countywide network. We're in contract with them for, let me say, 2 more years. And then we'll evaluate whether that's the correct decision to continue to maintain that contract or not, and when we get closer there.
Okay, but you were asking about professional services, that's ramped up and,
Yeah.
That's 324 is the line item. It's services to LEA, so that's basically any outside services. So again, the web filter falls into that category. Our internet bandwidth, our spams filter, our Barracuda backup. We use Barracuda as our product for that. So any subscriptions there for product maintenance.
So he did clear up a misconception I had. I thought that a lot of the additional cost had to do with iPads, and it was only a small part of it, so he explained.
yeah, okay,
Yeah.
yeah. It's a little, professional services, a lot of those things don't sound like professional services to me.
It's not a,
It's just the
Yeah, it's not a human coming in
Yeah,
delivering
right,
a service.
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
that-
yeah.
you know, typically what you would think there.
Okay.
Other questions? I know it's a very exciting,
Yeah.
very exciting topic. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think I'm good for now. I would like to see what the slides, if I can get
Yeah,
a copy of those and
Yep,
take a
yep,
look
I'll
at
send those
some of the
over to you.
details. Yeah, it's very helpful.
All right, well then we'll transition to the iPad discussion. So we're essentially waiting on a product announcement from Apple in March that occurred last week. It does not have any impact on our plans. We are waiting to see A, if there's any price adjustments, B, from a hardware perspective, if anything changed before we brought the lease, so that would be a lease payment for that. So
Okay.
what Apple announced last week was support for the Apple Pencil on the device. That was something we were hopeful for, just from a note-taking perspective. They did not bundle that into the cost with education. So if we were to add that device on, it works out to about $80,000 total, $20,000 a year. We are not recommending that addition.
$80,000 for
A pencil.
a pencil for our, 1,200
Yes.
unit? Oh, okay.
$80 basically.
So we have 1,200 iPads, is that the total?
I think that's low, but
Yeah.
that's low, isn't it? 1,200 is
Yeah,
low.
1,300 is the
Yeah,
rec-
1,300,
Yeah,
okay.
1,300 is going to be our recommended number. That leaves us loaner devices. Our actual enrollment at the high school is around 1,200, but we'll have 100 devices
Yeah.
just for enrollment and variations, and also just loaners as equipment, either fails or breaks or anything like that. No, we will not be recommending that piece of it, and pricing remained the same. So our guidance from last year remains intact. It's $294 for each iPad, and then it's $35 for the case. So we remain on target for about $115,000, so it's a little bit lower than that per year for that lease, and that's a 4-year lease.
And
So
I assume we have someone that we're leasing it through. Who's the,
it's Apple Financial, so
Apple Financial?
they provide the backing for it. And I did reach out to them this week. They should have a formal number for us that if you wish to bring that forward, we would have that available for this month. Ideally, I'd like to see approval either this month or next month, just from a product shipment standpoint, so we can get things coming in the summer. 1,200 devices is an undertaking, so we just want to make sure we hit that start of the year mark for our students. Typically with any of these vendors that are dealing with education, summer is their busy time when product quantities start to be diminished as we're all purchasing at the exact same time.
I guess, any concern that they would be able to ship?
I talked to them, if we hit approval in April or May, they felt confident. If approval occurred in June, that's when, concerns start to hit as either customers who A, took advantage of earlier purchasing, or B, just the overall summer rush occurs.
And it's a 4-year lease that we're looking.
Yep.
I could do the math, but what is the number for the year? 1,300 times,
13, we've been using 350 for a device, so 1,300.
okay.
Only we have a math teacher here. That's 455,000 divided over the course of 4 years, 113,750.
And as far as insurance, what did we decide to do with it? Is that in this price, or is that an optional cost?
That's an optional that the student would purchase. So if you're asking from what Apple offers, we can purchase Apple Care. That is not included in this budget. That works out to about $79. We did not feel the additional cost of that would equal our total failure or break rate. So $35 would be optional for the students to pay. If they do that, they get the one-time replacement cost, $50 deductible for subsequent breakage. If they do not carry the district insurance, they would be on the hook for a full cost of the repair, whatever the actual value is of it. So you can assume about $100 for a screen repair, that sort of thing. So we'll provide parents guidance on what actual repair costs would be anticipated, so they can,
Is
that.
there going to be something for them to sign stating that they understand this?
Oh,
Like
absolutely.
a part of the handbook? And I mean, how receptive are parents in this district about paying for things that,
Well, so-
like library books and
I
things
know.
that don't,
I know. So
because, you could say all you want, they're going to pay it, but
correct. So a lot of districts are facing this. Some districts have actually taken it as far as they go to small claims court to
Okay.
recoup the fee.
to prove a point.
Yeah. Others write it off as a loss. We can make that decision. There's not a standard response. In this county or in Tri-County, we ask all of them how they're handling that. Next month, one thing I want to bring forth to you guys is an online system called My School Bucks that allows parents to pay for things online, or we can invoice them. So hopefully we can make it a little bit easier to capture some of that we're not waiting for checks to come in or different things like that. But at the end of the day, it's not like we can hit their credit or different things.
Right, and that's what I mean. And I don't think we want it to get out.
Yeah.
If we're not going to pursue things, I don't think we want to allow anyone to know that.
Exactly.
So right now, when there's obligations, so a kid doesn't return a textbook.
Uh-huh.
The teachers give us a report, and actually, we're doing this right now.
Uh-huh.
And we call the kid down and say, you owe us this much. So right now, the options are, we can not let them participate in things. So they couldn't go to prom if they didn't pay their stuff. They can remove those things. The biggest thing in this way, thankfully many years ago, it would be the day of graduation practice, and there would be 50 kids lined up at the door, and somebody go, you owe me $200 for the book from 9th grade year. What? You can't participate in graduation until you pay $200. We under the current administration, have worked to improve the process, but it's not as if there's an online system. There's no it's an Excel spreadsheet. Back to Rob's point of tracking data. There's no real tool that we use currently, but with the new needs that we have, that's why Scott has been pursuing other options to help us come into a more reasonable age. And it's about informing the parents, knowing as much as they can on the front side. And then even now we send letters at the end of the school year, we didn't get this back. Do you have it? Before years go by to say, do you have that vocab workbook? And we've gotten a lot higher return of our property, let alone the students just go, yeah, I lost it, here's $10.
Okay.
So we work to do that. Obviously, this is a situation that's much more involved, but it's a process that is not easy by anybody's means, but the options we have before us are much better than they've been.
I guess on the insurance piece, will we have an insurance company that's handling that, or we're
That's a self-insurance model.
self-insured? That's what I was wondering. So, and it's a $50 replacement, so someone technically could buy a iPad for $50.
Yeah, technically, yeah. So we would reply in the fine print police report or
Okay.
something for a stolen device. So if they go that far,
Because
file
it's
large
large.
on the report, obviously not good for us, but.
And
they're-
obviously, they need it more than we do.
I was gonna say, yeah, they're gonna have bigger problems. over the next
Exactly.
year at
Okay.
that
Okay.
point.
I think that, it's, I foresee just as many pitfalls coming down, but that, I mean, just because we're saying this is what we want to do that seems reasonable, and this is what other districts are doing, it doesn't mean we couldn't modify it in future years.
Absolutely.
If we're, if self-insured, we end up at a loss,
Right.
after 2 years, but I think it's as good as, I mean, I know you did the research and, on what other school districts in the area of similar size are doing, and I think, it's as good as a place to start as any.
Yeah, and I was only bringing it up because I know how hard
No,
it is
I
to get
understand.
lunch money from a kid, let alone $300 for an iPad. Like,
Others are having problems too. I think Muhlenberg with
Yeah.
Chromebooks and things. It's
Yeah, no,
Right.
I
Similar.
get
Well,
that.
the two things to keep in mind, I mean, my recommendation obviously is the optional, it's an optional thing that parents can cover.
Sure.
The other two models that occur is it's a mandatory fee that kids have to pay just no matter what. Or right next door, our neighbors at Pottsgrove do, it's a fee you have to pay if you want to take the device home. So those are the other two scenarios we see. Just professionally, I recommend the optional, because we don't charge a fee for textbooks or different things like that. So if you're a responsible student and you can maintain the device, I think you should. But if you want that additional coverage, obviously we're putting it there so there's no financial, impact if something happens
Yeah,
to the
I mean,
device.
parents know that they have kids that are hard on equipment, but
Correct.
the $35 is going to be worth it.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
That is that's the only update I have on the one-to-one. Otherwise, we maintain on target for implementation next year.
Okay. Right, yeah, I guess, it's getting late. We can talk about plans as we move forward and talk about some of the details. The one last thing, I guess, we're looking to maintain, at least do some of the maintenance of the iPads by your staff, is it?
Yeah, so first year, we get the 1 year warranty from Apple, so that would all be outside.
Okay.
We will look to get them trained on some repairs.
Okay.
Otherwise, there's a company that most of the school districts who use iPads maintains their product repairs.
Okay.
It's Apple, so I love Apple, but they're they like to play in their own sandbox. So from like a logic board replacement or different things like that, you have to go through Apple. Otherwise, our system won't be able to manage it. So some of those things we can't do in-house just because of the
What about
parts.
replacing screens and stuff like that? Can
That's
we
where we'll
do
look
that?
to get trained. Currently,
Okay.
we do use an outside company. Knock on wood, we've only had 2 screens break, and they actually just occurred last month for the first time in 3 years. And it's at about.
Yeah, but that's just the teachers, right?
What's that? No, it was one teacher, one student.
No, okay.
Yeah, so
All right.
we're at 50-50.
All right.
But that was only a $100 cost. So right now, our failure rate does not justify the cost to get people
Yeah.
trained and certified.
Okay.
And that's something we'll monitor
We'll have to
next
keep
year
an
to
eye.
see what our actual breakage is.
Okay. Well, that was very helpful. Any other questions or anything else for tonight?
no?
Nope.
Public comment?
No, no public comment? Okay, it is 7:39, and we will adjourn the Technology Committee meeting. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, sir.